and welcome to my world. Oh, I guess this one's gonna be straight up and down. Usually I do flat, but I forgot to do it. So here we are. So today I am going to be exploring some of my thoughts on our names and how important our artist names are in our creative process, and also just naming things in general and how powerful that is as we explore our creative journey. So what sort of inspired this was there was this beautiful talk that Hierophant hosted on Patreon, and she invited Earthkeeper Selena Mew, and Selena with an S. So you can find her stuff on Instagram and all that stuff. But it was really neat because the entire episode was, I mean, there was a lot to it, but it was really beautiful because a big portion of it was introducing herself through her name. And that was just like a good 2 hours. And granted, there were little tendrils of stories that went through, but the naming process was so beautiful. And I just think it's so interesting because many people, as they go through different initiations in their lives, explore different names. You know, they call in different names. And even as our parents name us, you know, they offer us a gift. And that gift is whatever that name is charged with, whether it's the numerology of the name, and you kind of see what the name means, the kind of historical meaning. Even if a parent named you after a family member or someone that they knew, that name is charged with the energy of that person, right? I know a kid who was, you know, his name is Lennon, and his voice is amazing, and he's just an amazing musician, and it's like, you know, that name is charged. Or Elton John, his name wasn't Elton John. He liked, I don't even think either of them were that, but Elton, he wanted to do Elton, and he decided John because it made him think of John Lennon. And he was like, oh yeah, John, great, I'll go with John, because he saw a picture of John Lennon. He's like, that guy's cool. I'd like that energy of that John. And so the intention that we receive a name with, or that we give ourselves a name with when we choose a name, is really powerful for that. Hi, thank you for joining. Hi, Shivam and King. Hi. But yeah, I was just talking about names and the power of names and how they really charge our offering. So initially I was born with a name, and it's really beautiful. So the name I was born with is Michaela. And Michaela is the feminine version of Michael, who is an angel, and it's a very protective angel. It's an angel that you would call on. Thank you. It's an angel that you would call on to protect. And so I looking back at my life, I do realize that I was very, very protective. Still am. And yeah, I'll show you a little bit. It's really cute here. We got some, well, you can't really see. Got a little river. But anyway, yeah, very protective. And then angel, yeah, I felt really drawn towards learning to play the harp, and very kind of celestial sounding music as well. Protective about a lot of things, mostly protective about the people in my life. I've been mostly protective of the people in my life. I work with children, so I'm also very protective of them. It is a forest here. Protective of many, many different things. So I feel protected by the forest. So I also feel like I've been protected a lot, because I have been probably in some, you know, like I've walked home at all hours of the evening that I probably wasn't, you know, it probably wasn't the safest, like 5 a.m. on questionable streets, but I always felt very protected. So I feel like that name had it. And then my parents, when they named me, they wanted to give me fluidity, so my name could be Mickey or Mick or Michaela. And so I just had this freedom to my name where I could exist many different energies, where Mick was very kind of bright and energetic, and Michaela felt more fluid, and Mick felt very stern and tough, you know? So it was very nice. And so when I started doing my art, I really, well, when I started sharing my music more professionally and wanting to take it seriously as a career, I really contemplated over what name I wanted to go by, what name I wanted to go by. And names are so important because, you know, in indigenous traditions, like it was the mystic that named the children. They felt the energy of the child, and it was the mystic that named the children. So I was like, okay, what do I want my artist name to be? And I contemplated, and I decided to do Just Micki. Justmicci. I went by Just Micki because I thought, hey, I just want the freedom to do whatever I want to do. Creative freedom has always been very important to me. So I said, Just Micki's fine. And for a while that was really great. And I did my thing and it was very fun. But then over time, I felt like Just, J-U-S-T, was very much interpreted as like making me feel small. Like, oh, I'm just Micki. I'm just a little guy. And I kind of wanted something more expansive than that. So yeah, creative freedom. So I decided to meditate a little bit more after many years. I've released a lot of music under Just Micki, so if you do want to find it, Justmicci, you can go there. It's on Bandcamp and Spotify. But I decided, okay, I want to transition my name because I wanted to call in a new energy. And so I really contemplated on it, and there's a couple reasons why I decided the artist name Oiseau. So I chose Oiseau because, first of all, it's French. It's spelled W-U-Z-Z-O. But I chose Oiseau because, first of all, I really admire the freedom of birds. Birds, they can fly. They literally have wings. They're also very creative. You know, they create their beautiful nests, pieces of art, and they sing. So they're making things and they're singing. So I'm like, okay, I like to make things and I like to sing. So birds are perfect for what I'm calling in. And then I wanted it to be a French word because I'm part of my ancestry is Acadian, and I find that the Acadian community has been incredibly supportive of my work as an artist. And so I've been very appreciative of that, and I wanted to kind of honor that part of my lineage with my artist name. So that's why I chose Oiseau. And Oiseau. And since I chose that name, I have noticed shifts in my career. My music started to sound a little bit more cosmic. It started to include a lot more actual bird sounds. So I use bird samples in a lot of my music. And you can find it, Oiseau's World, W-U-Z-Z-O-S, and then World, W-O-R-L-D, on SoundCloud, Spotify, all that stuff. But I started including a lot more bird sounds in my music, and I was like, what? I do sing. I'll sing a little bit maybe at the end. And so I started including more bird sounds, and I found that my voice I started exploring much more just with like toning. I still write lyrics, but I also just would explore with toning and just like that fluid energy and all that jazz. So I was like, oh man, this is really cool. I noticed a shift. And another really powerful thing about working with an alias with your artist name, another freedom that it offers is, you know, something a teacher of mine that teaches. She comes from a very, very challenging kind of background where she wants to be very honest about her history, but she doesn't want to maybe put her family, you know, in a kind of a rough place, in the sense that, like, you know, everybody has different interpretations of different stories. So if she's speaking from her truth and it doesn't line up with maybe her family's truth, then her family doesn't have to identify with that or claim that in any way. So it also gives a bit of anonymity, which is really nice. So yeah, it's really powerful. It's really powerful. So she changed her name and has felt it's been easier to be more honest with her sharing. Hi Danielle, good to see you. But yeah, many artists actually change their names to feel a freedom of expression. Chappell Roan, for instance, Chappell was her grandfather's name, so when she chose Chappell, you know, it was her, I think, his last name. You know, she called in kind of the love and support that he had and felt for her. So you think it helps them in their carrier. I'm not sure what that means, but yeah, so it really helps with that intention. So when you're calling that in, you're charging yourself with that. And then another really powerful thing, I believe it was Queen Herbie. It may be another artist with Queen in their artist name, but I think it was Queen Herbie. But when she chose the name Queen, she started to ask herself, is this what a queen would wear? Is this what a queen would say? Is this what a queen would do? Is this how a queen would behave? And when you change the name and you set that intention, you always ask yourself, am I in integrity with that name that I'm choosing for myself, or am I being dishonest? Is this true, or is it an illusion, right? And so when we call in a name, it's like we say, here's what I want to step into. And when we step into it, the name holds us kind of accountable. There's a lot of really beautiful different naming ceremonies in one indigenous teaching. It's the lineage of Mu. It's a Hawaiian lineage where you name your masculine, your feminine, and your androgynous. Yeah, the relationship to your name is, and your art is, a lifelong commitment. So beautiful. And so you name your masculine, feminine, masculine, and your androgynous. And the feminine is what you hold counsel with. It's what you resource, what nourishes you. So for instance, what makes me feel safe? So I need certain things to make me feel safe. I need certain things to make me feel held and make me feel comfortable creating. So if, for instance, I like, a nourishment of my feminine would be, meeting someone in equal measure. So I'm not better than you, you're not better than me. We meet in equal power. So that is something that I need to help me feel safe to create. Another thing that would make me feel safe is grounding, like putting my feet on the earth, the actual ground. Getting appreciated, that is definitely a nourishment. That might be one of your nourishments as well too. So having these nourishments is so important for supporting my creative freedom. And so that would be what's guiding me. Okay, do I feel safe? How do I feel safe? How can I give myself those things that make me feel safe? Okay, honesty, water. Yeah, a lot of people have similar ones, and that's so beautiful. So all these things. So if I find myself that I'm not creating, I'm like, well, what am I missing? What are my nourishments that I'm missing? Do I not feel safe? Why don't I feel safe? Am I feeling submissive? Am I feeling taken advantage of? Am I feeling like my needs aren't being met? So I start and saying, how can I give myself those needs in very practical ways? And then once I start giving myself my needs, that my feminine says, hey, give me these things. And my feminine is, I'm guided by light, which is just a feeling of buoyancy or floating. Like I just feel like I'm floating when my nourishments are met. When I shut down, I feel heavy, I'm not giving myself what I need. So if I'm feeling heavy, I have to say, okay, maybe I need to go outside. Maybe I need to drink more water. Maybe I need to just be in a playful situation. Maybe I need to dance. I have a long list of nourishments. I'll sing you my feminine prayer at the end of this. And then once I feel that, then I can start exploring my masculine. My masculine is how I function, how I work in this world. So my function is roots. So the way that I function is many roots, nourishing many things, and saying, okay, I love just having my tendrils in a lot of different things, and then moving energy and communicating in many different ways, and being able to communicate with people all over, and large groups of people at the same time, and feeling grounded in all these things. So you might look, if you go to my website, wazosworld.com, you'll see, oh my God, she does a lot. You're like, what are you even doing? But I love that. I love doing many things that all come back to the same tree. So that's how my roots function. They're diverging, they're curling, they're swirling. Yeah, you can tell. So these beautiful roots are going into these many different directions, and that's how I love to create. And the reason why I love to create that way is I love building worlds. I love world building. So I run musical theater camps, and so yes, we need to, make puppets, and we need to design the set, and we need to, sing and dance and act and do all these different things. But it's okay that I want to do all these different things, because it works in kind of the offering that I like to create. Or when I'm putting on a show, there's the visual, there's the audio, there's the sensational, there's many different things, right? So the fact that my roots like to go in many different places is super fine. And then there's the androgynous, or the temple, where it all culminates into an offering. And that would be the Akashic Records, or Creative Freedom, which is the name of this podcast, my Creative Freedom podcast. Ooh, the wind is very strong. Those sounds of birds is very soothing. Thank you. I love the sound of birds. Yeah, and so the creative freedom is kind of what all these masculine and feminine come together to create. So we have light and then roots, and then it creates this creative freedom, which is my gift to the world. And when I combine my nourishments, the things that feed me, with how I function in the world, I get creative freedom. And that's my most exciting thing for me to share, because I feel truly like creative freedom is my solution to kind of like war culture, to culture where we try to overpower each other, where we try to diminish each other in return of your gift. Yeah, and so when I really offer my gift of creative freedom, I feel like it's my way of making, like, my contribution to making the world a better place. And it's also the thing that I feel so excited about offering. And when I offer it, it actually goes back to feeding my nourishments, my feminine. So it's this full circuit of, I nourish myself with creative freedom, and then I feel safe enough to create, so then I have more creative freedom. And it's this beautiful closed loop circuit. Now, everybody has a different gift, but I do feel like all these different gifts that we have can support each other gifts. You can see the excitement on my face. Yeah, because it's something it's really nice to kind of connect to a purpose. It feels good to connect to a purpose. And a great question to ask yourself as you're wanting to connect to a purpose is, what's your solution to war, or what's your solution to poverty? Like, what do you think would actually be the solution? And as you contemplate what you truly believe the solution to be, that's most likely going to be your gift, most likely the thing that you're going to want to offer. And so for me, I truly believe creative freedom would end war, because if you think about it, there are some people who caused a lot of harm, who were denied their artistic expression, who people said, no, you're not an artist. And then they went on to overpower, or, end the lives of many people in pretty intense ways. So it's so important for us to be able to explore creative freedom, because, like, it does end a lot of competition. And if I'm in perfectionism, if I'm trying to be perfect, I'm not going to be free creatively. If I'm in competition with you, say like Danielle makes something beautiful, and then I'm like, well, he made something beautiful, so I can't make something beautiful, then, like, I'm not going to be creatively free. So when I'm in competition with you, I'm not going to be creative freedom, right? I'm not going to be able to be in my creative freedom. So when I go back all the time and say, does this nourish my creative freedom? Does this support creative freedom? Does this enable creative freedom? If the answer is no, it might not be something that I want to continue to pursue. So having that name and knowing that we're always coming back to something and always saying, is this true still? Is this true? I call myself this. Is this still true? And so when we name a project, it's the same thing as naming ourselves. So when I say, okay, I go by Oiseau, which to me, a bird is creative freedom, full creative freedom for me, because they're singers and they're creators. Am I always going back to that? And so when I name a project, does it make sense? Because if the name of a project doesn't align with what the project is, people are just confused. They're like, you said it was this, but then it was actually this. And then people feel that's really strange. So when we're on our journey of creating offerings through our creative freedom, it's important to just be straight up about what it is and be like, hey, this is what I'm selling, or this is what I'm making, or this is what I'm offering. And people can choose to invite or uninvite themselves. So I was like, okay, what do I want to talk about every single week? I'm going to be doing this every Wednesday, give or take. Hopefully, yes, it is a commitment that I'm making to myself. But I'm doing this every Wednesday. And it's like, okay, if you want to come to this, we're going to be talking about creative freedom. And I'm going to be celebrating you and your creative freedom. And I'm going to say like, yeah, thank you, Shivam. Yeah, I'm going to celebrate you and your creative freedom. And I want to hear about the things that you're making. So yeah, please share what you're making. And thank you, Danielle. I really appreciate, honestly, Danielle has been around since my first artist name, and has always been a big supporter of my creative freedom. And, you know, a bumblebee in himself as well, very much a wide expression kind of being who kind of has his finger in everything. Yeah, I do love celebrating. I do love celebrating people in their creative freedom. And one thing, this is a nourishment to creative freedom that I've been thinking about a lot lately, is organization and consistency. So we have our name, and names are actually an important part of organization, because if the reason I'm talking about this is because I'm not always good at it. You know, I don't know if anybody else does this, where they're like final draft, final draft, the most final draft 02, and I'm like, oh my god, I can't have 20 final drafts, but I do. So I need to work on that. So the name is actually really important. Also, the name for creative freedom, especially if you're just working with like a search bar on your laptop or your phone, if you don't know what you name something, how are you going to find it to work on it, right? And the categories and things like that. So like, just on a very basic and practical level, like, naming things is really helpful. And sometimes it doesn't have to be the most fancy name. Sometimes it just needs to be like straight up like, this is the final draft of my musical. Or like if I'm naming something, just like a lyric in my song, it's like the easiest lyric to remember in my song. I'm gonna name it that, because if somebody hears my song, they're gonna be like, oh, I can look it up by that lyric, right? So naming things is super important, and it's nice to have creative freedom and with naming things, but also one thing I'm learning with naming things is to be practical and be like, does this make sense? It should be straight and relatable, and I completely agree. And I know a lot of artists, myself included, are like, oh, but it needs to be so like fancy and deep. And I'm like, if nobody knows what it is that you're offering, nobody's gonna want to attend. Like if you're like, the final draft for today, right? Sometimes I date it. Dating helps. Dating helps because I'm like, this is the date that I did this on, so anything after this date is the next thing. But yeah, like definitely if you name something that in a way that people don't even know what it is, you're like, oh yeah, you want to just do a dance, some sort of dance party, like a sober dance party, you know? You want to call it a sober dance party, and then you just call it like, you know, something that's really vague. Or, you know, say you offer one-on-one sessions and you're like, well, what do you do? Yeah, Wuzzo's World the artist. Yeah. So Wuzzo's World, the reason why I call myself Wuzzo's World is because I am a world builder, and I build worlds with music, with art, with puppets, with with many, many different things. So it's like, if you come into my world, this is what you're gonna get. This is what you're gonna get when you come into my world. But I just really wanted to be clear. Actually, a big reason for it, I'm gonna tell you guys a little secret. And this has been, if you guys know Studio Ghibli, like Howl's Moving Castle, Spirited Away, if y'all have a favorite Studio Ghibli movie, do a little dibble dibble and I'll watch it if I haven't. But I love the world that they build in that, because it's like watercolor painting, the music, the stories. It is beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. The slowness, the grandmothers, precious. So it's always been a dream of mine to compose music for a Studio Ghibli, movie. I've always wanted to make music for Studio Ghibli movies. So a lot, because that music has influenced my style of music. And as I've done that, over the years, I was like, okay, well, he's already got his guy that he usually does music for. It's not that I'm not gonna aim for that, but I just realized, I was like, wait, I'm a storyteller. I write musicals for a living. Like, I write musicals for a living. I write stories. I write children's books. I do all these things. I'm like, wait, I could just make my own Studio Ghibli, but include puppets. And I'm learning to animate right now. And I'm like, what? Yes. Yes. Yeah, a model. If you're looking for a model in that, I'm here then. Oh, well, I'm not like modeling like the walking kind or the picture kind. Feel free to ping me on social media, Wizzo's World, and we can chat. I'd love to see some of your creations. But yeah, so I've always wanted to do this Studio Ghibli music, and I was like, wait, I love everything. I can make anything. So why don't I make my own Studio Ghibli movies? YouTube exists. Like, why do I need to wait for someone to find me? And that's always been a big part of my path, is like, oh, I don't have to wait for someone to cast me in a musical. I don't have to wait for someone to invite me to play at their show. I can put on my own show. I can write my own musical. I can make my own TV series. It's nice to be invited. So if you guys do want to invite me, like, still invite me. But I'm like, while I'm waiting, while I'm waiting to be invited, like, let me just make my things and have fun with it. Yeah. So that's been kind of my vibe. So I know I kind of was talking about titles and names, but yeah, so the Studio Ghibli thing. So the reason why I called myself Wuzzo's World was, okay, I want to create worlds. I want to make movies. And since I named myself Wuzzo's World, I actually started learning to animate. I started making puppets. I didn't make puppets until Wuzzo's World. But as soon as I named myself that, puppets came because, oh my God, puppets build worlds. Puppets, it's hundreds of different characters that I can use and explore to create different worlds. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so much fun. So I'm like, oh my God. So the name has really opened a lot of doors for me in my creative style, because it's in, like, since then I've been guided. And there's this beautiful musical that I've written for my musical theater students. The show's on Friday, actually, and it's about gnomes. I actually don't even have a title for the musical yet. Right now, we're just calling it Gnomes, but it's basically about these kids who, they're young children, and their family is very busy with work, and the young children really want attention. You know, I will sing soon. The kids really want attention, and so they decide, their father's really busy working, their mom's always cleaning the house, and so all that stuff. So they decide, hey, what if we follow a rainbow and we find the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow? And so they go on this adventure. And then, of course, the parents freak out because their kids are missing. So, but the kids leave a note, and the note says, we're going to follow the rainbow. So the parents are like, well, we have to follow the rainbow, and hopefully we can find the kids. And so there's these gnomes that you can only see if you're at a very calm frequency. And the really interesting thing is, since I've been doing this musical, I've seen gnomes everywhere. Like, they're everywhere. I'm like, they're at every store, like everywhere. They're in the mountains, they're in the sky. Yeah, everybody wants attention. So yeah, the gnomes are everywhere. Like, if you look at the clouds, you'll start to see sky gnomes. If you look at the mountains, you'll start to see earth gnomes. And then, of course, just within the store, like when I go to buy craft supplies, I'm like, there's some gnomes there too, little tiny birthday gnomes. And I'm like, what? Everywhere. Anyway, so the kids see the gnomes because they're slow, but the parents don't. Yeah, you do. And so the kids follow the rainbow, and the gnomes take them towards the pot of gold. And the parents, when they slow down, they don't see the gnomes, but what they see is the footprints, or the broken branches, or a granola bar wrapper, right? So the parents slow down enough to be able to see the traces of the children, and they end up following the kids. And then they ultimately find the kids' nomenclature. That's fun. That might need to make it into the sequel. And so they follow the kids, and there's this one scene that's really important. I'll post the video when it's done, so y'all can watch it. It's very cute. So and then I want to make it into a movie with puppets. So they follow the children, and at one point the kids have to cross a bridge. It's a gnome bridge, and it's just a river with a whole bunch of stones. And here, I wonder if we can even show you, like, see all those stones? They're kind of just there, and it's just a little wobbly. It's not like a really clean bridge. It's just kind of a messy little pile of rocks. And so the gnomes are like, here, you can cross the river because it's a gnome bridge. And the kids are like, I can't cross the river, it's too wide. So they show them the gnome bridge and they're like, the stones are too wobbly. And then the gnomes say, you have to slow down. You have to slow down your breathing enough. And then when you slow down your breathing, the stones that are safe will start to glow. The stones that are safe will start to glow. And then so they slow down, and the whole song, the whole time they're walking across, I tell the kids, each stone is 4 seconds. And the gnomes sing the song, it goes, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, like you're smelling a lavender field. Breathe, and then the safest stones will be revealed. Breathe out, like you're blowing out the candles on a cake. A vanilla chocolate swirl on your 100th birthday. Breathe in on the color purple like the sunset sky. Breathe out all the fears you cling to, then you'll know you'll find the stones that are the safest. As you walk across with ease, everything gets easier when you slow down and breathe. It doesn't have to be so hard, honey, can't you see? Come on, cross the river, come along with me. And then they cross the river safely. And so that's kind of the premise of that thing. And so this thought of like, what do I pursue? What do I pursue with my creative curiosities? Thank you so much. What do I pursue? And at the very end of the musical, the father doesn't find a pot of gold, but in fact, he's met with his father, who tells him that who's actually passed away in another dimension, and he sees his father through the crystal mirror, and he says, you know, in order to find the pot of gold, you have to follow your dreams. And the dad says, well, what about making money? And then the grandfather said, and then the little girl, actually the daughter, because the gnomes told her, she says, you have to breathe in slow and follow the stones that glow. And I do truly believe that that's how we make living doing our art, where we feel these tugs. They're like just a little tug on your heart that brings you just a little forward. And it doesn't have to be, you know, cymbals and crashing or chaos. It can just be a little tug. But if you slow down your breathing enough, the next thing will start to glow. The next thing will be sparkly. And it's like when you get your nervous system regulated, you know, you do your little nervous system regulation, whatever you need to do to get back into that calm state, the stones will start to glow and you'll follow those stones. Puppets, I love them so much. And since I've started puppets, I've had like 3 people. It's wild. This one mother reached out to me and she said, hey, would you be interested in doing a puppet workshop? My daughter would love to make puppets. And then there were 2 other things. Oh yeah, just like I've gotten way more engagement with my things, with my puppets, than pretty much anything on social media. And like I'm part of Coastal Vibe Collective, which is an ecstatic dance company, a sober dance company, where we put on parties, but there's no alcohol. And like I help with the promotion, but I always feel awkward filming people. But then when I bring out my puppet, my puppet's like so much easier. Like whenever people interact with a puppet, they feel much more comfortable on camera because my puppet's like, hi, let's do this. And they love it and they glow, they start to glow. And so it feels a lot more honest and authentic. The stones are glowing like you are glowing, exactly. And when you follow, the wind says yes. When you follow the stones that glow, you do start to glow. And it changes how you live your life. And so if there's anything that I'm here to kind of sparkle at you, and you know, even the stone that glows is how like you decided to click on this video, you know, it's like, oh, why am I a stone that's glowing for you? What's the message that I have for you? Why am I sparkling right now? You know, it's a little tug. If anybody's read The Celestine Prophecy, if you haven't, I would suggest it. Celestine Prophecy, it's a book very similar. They don't talk about glowing stones, but they do talk about like listening to the little tugs on your heart, the soft whispers. There's this one poem I wrote and it says, you know, Can't remember exactly how it goes, but it says, listen to the whispers, and then we won't have to shout. You know, when you listen to the whispers, it there's always a conversation between you and the universe, and you and the earth, and you and whatever kind of energy you want to kind of acknowledge as the friendly force that's guiding you towards your full self. And it's gonna talk to you no matter what. But if you're ignoring it, it'll just get louder and louder and louder. That's how I believe sickness works, is, when you're ignoring those soft signals, then your body's like, okay, fine, no. Like, there was something that felt really out of alignment. When things feel out of alignment, but you push through, sickness really slaps. It just comes right in, and it's like, I knew I should have said no, but I didn't. And then the body's like, I'll do it for you. I'll give you an out. I'll give you an excuse. I'll give you an excuse. And, I'm sure there's other, sicknesses that come in that are just like meant to be exactly the way that they're supposed to be, and the sickness is supposed to happen or whatever. But many people who experience extreme sicknesses, like the big ones, they say it's one of the greatest gifts that's ever happened to them, because it made them slow down, it made them change their perspective, and made them start having boundaries, or whatever journey that is. And within my own relationship with my pain with my womb, when I don't express my boundaries, I'll have a lot of pain there. And so I need to start, I'm on the journey of listening. It seems like so many things are going on in my mind. Yes, I'm roots, but it all ties together. Even though I have many things going on in my mind, I'll bring it back to creative freedom, because, a name is important for your creative freedom. A name helps you with a system for your creative freedom, right? So your name will help you name the system so that you can work with that system. And when you have a name and a system, you have creative freedom. You can explore whatever you want to. And that's one of the things that really nourish creative freedom. So I think I'm gonna wind things down, but I'm wondering if maybe I'll do a little tune. So it's not the best lighting in the basement, so, what do I want to do? But don't you think it makes you more vulnerable? Having many things on my mind, or creative freedom, or my name, what part makes me more vulnerable? I'm going to explore the song. Let's see. Okay. I know, this is a fun one, and it's just a clapping one, so you can clap along. And I'm actually going to be releasing this really soon, hopefully in September. It's called Can't Get the Flowers. I write songs that aren't children's songs. This, I would say, is for anyone. It's kind of like a mantra, but yeah, it's technically classified as maybe it was in one of my children's musicals. Many things in my mind. I don't think it makes me vulnerable. And it's okay to be vulnerable, I feel safe enough to be vulnerable. Can't get the flowers without the rain. Can't get the growing without the pain. Can't see your strength till things get hard. And you never know, you could have gone this far. And you never know, you could have gone this far. And I know things get hard, but the good with the bad is what makes us who we are. I know things get tough, but just remember you got this far. You are strong enough. You are strong enough. Thank you. No, I don't have any kids of my own, but I work with many children, so I'm a temporary maternal figure in their lives. I'm a cyclical maternal figure with classes, music classes, and theater camps. I have adults who are music students too, but yeah, I think my vibe calls in a lot of kids, so that's cool too. Anyway, thank you so much. Thank you for the love. And I'm gonna waft off and go have some rapi pie. or rapier as the Acadians call it. It's potato schlop and chicken and it's a good time. All right, so I hope you have a beautiful, beautiful day, and I'll come back to check maybe some of the comments later, but I'm going to wind off and wind out. Big love. Let's see. Do love the kiddos. All right, I work with the Eastern Door. How do I finish this? Finish this. Ah! Exit. I'll come back to check. Wednesday, that's when I plan on going live next. Ah. Are you sure you want to stop streaming? Yes. Sending you big love. And yeah, next week if you come and you if you've done any creative things, feel free to like ping on me in social media. I'd love to see your stuff.